I'm Aryeh Schwartz alongside Rachel Galligan, and welcome to the Winsidr Show, where it's all about the W. We had an electric draft lottery yesterday. It was exciting. Things shook out in a way that maybe statistically you expected, but maybe your gut didn't feel like it was going to happen. We're going to dive in and discuss the WNBA draft lottery and now the fully set WNBA 2025 draft order. If you like our show, please consider joining our Patreon community, patreon.com/Winsidr. For less than a cup of coffee a month, you can directly show support for the hard work we and our team at Winsidr do covering the W. And don't forget to see our amazing staff's written content over at winsidr.com. That's winsidr.com. Okay, Rachel, we're back. The draft order's set. The lottery was yesterday.
Do you like my Christmas room?
I mean, I'm a Grinch, so no, but I think it looks quite beautiful for people who are not a Grinch. You got the stocking, which I just learned I should not call a sock.
These are red. I don't know why they look orange. Do they look orange to you?
Yeah, they look, is the ball the same color in the book?
The ball is red too. It's so frustrating. It looks like Halloween in here. Anyway, yeah, I'm trying to make it Christmas vibes, but okay.
To be fair, it is closer to Halloween than it is to Christmas. So, get your spice latte, your pumpkin spice. There we go. All right, let's talk about this. Before we dive into it all, first of all, let's just real quick run it down. Winning the draft lottery. I'll do it in the order that it was announced on TV. The Washington Mystics get number 4. The Chicago Sky get number 3, which was essentially the second best outcome for them, because even if they would have gotten a better draft pick, the best they could have gotten was number 2, and hoping that Dallas got 1 because of the swap rights that Dallas has. LA Sparks get the number 2 pick. If you haven't already, there's a great video of many of the LA Sparks team sitting around at a bar restaurant watching the pick come in, and the disappointment that takes over their faces is worthy of watching. It's sad, but it's also entertaining. Then the Dallas Wings, they get the number 1 pick. Now, before we get into all of this, I just want to, we were chatting about this before the episode, and I'm just going to do a little rant. So bear with me for a moment while I do this.
Because I want to rant too. We're ranting today.
Here's my thing. I've seen the chatter on social media. I've spoken to friends and family who are into the W and have their opinions on the franchises and all these different things. But if I'm going to be honest, all 4 of these franchises have ginormous issues, fundamentally flawed issues currently. Okay. And I'm not, so I saw a lot of talk. I'm not going to, skirt blame to the Dallas Wings. I have been very vocal, and, I was vocal about this before being vocal about this was cool. And that's not a pat on my back. That's for me to say, I've been very clear. The Dallas Wings issues have been that a person who is a partial owner of the team has run basketball operations, has been the GM, has not given a head coach the ability to truly, 1, build a roster that was agreed upon before the hiring. We've seen that multiple times. 2, has not allowed that coach to have a legitimate, forceful say in the building of that roster. And 3, the owner is the GM, and one of the owners is the GM, and was making decisions. First of all, coaches getting to how they went, it was 7 or 5 coaches or 7 coaches in 5 years, or 5 coaches in 7 years.
I think it was like 5 coaches in 7 years. I don't know. I remember tweeting out all that information, which is just insane, right? Yeah, it's something along those lines.
So just flat out, issues upon issues upon issues. And so I'm not here to say, let's not throw shit. There are serious concerns, serious issues with Dallas, even with the hiring of Curt Miller. I'm a fan of Curt Miller. I like what he's done as a coach. I like what he's done as a GM throughout his career in this league. We always affectionately call him at Winsidr an elite floor raiser. I still have many questions because Greg Bibb is still the person that Curt Miller answers to.
Sure.
That was in the release. I still have my questions. I am not. So yeah, that is the issues with Dallas, right? Then let's talk about LA. This is the same LA team that had the Penny issues. This is the same LA team that hired Derek Fisher. This is the same LA team that tried, the Liz Cambage run. This is the same LA team that then brought in, first of all, not only hired Derek Fisher, but hired him and then gave him more power, which whatever, after we saw what he could do, but then doesn't have a facility, relies heavily on the fact that it's LA and players want to play in LA, but they don't like, you
No
know,
practice facility.
no practice facility. You're often playing in, you as affectionately call it, what do you call it? A
A
pyramid.
pyramid.
They're playing in the pyramid. Like, let's be honest. I understand this is a team that has historic ties to the league. I understand this is a team that had Lisa Leslie, Candace Parker, Nneka Ogwumike, and Chelsea Gray. But let's not forget about how Candace Parker, Nneka Ogwumike, and Chelsea Gray all left the team. There is so many issues, and let's not forget about the fact that, uh, like Magic Johnson's comments after the team
Oh, yeah.
struggled in the after the season that they had was just like head boggling and
Oh, yeah, I need to
confusing.
be more involved.
Yeah, because that's gonna help. No, I'm sorry, no. And then let's move on. So got your issues there. Let's move on to the Chicago Sky.
Who
Just now
actually
getting a
look the
practice.
most they actually right now, currently, which I can't believe I'm getting ready to say this. I can't believe I'm getting ready to say this. Look better. They look the best. I can't believe I'm saying it. But you know what? Credit Alter. I am as critical as all hell, but at least they're making some moves. Sorry, go ahead.
So no, so they've made it. Also, LA and Dallas don't currently have head coaches. Side note.
Right.
I let my personal opinion, look, it doesn't matter if you get them a week ago, this week, whatever. There is a point where it is becoming late and they're going to have to play catch up. But I still say take the better one whenever you can. That said, Chicago Sky finally breaking ground on a facility, finally truly splitting up GM head coaching responsibility, still have many concerns when it comes to business operations and penny pinching
Investment.
and cutting corners, and so many, like, there's so many issues with the Chicago Sky that we're not even going to get into just yet. But hey, then let's tack on that, you hired Teaspoon and then you fire her a year later. I've been
Not
very
even a
open and
year.
honest.
Not even a year. But okay.
True. I'll be very honest about this. I wasn't the biggest fan of the Teaspoon hire. I was one of the few people, like Rachel, I know you were a little bit more reserved and said, I'll see how it goes. I was like, I'm not the biggest fan of the Teaspoon hire. I'm still very much against the fire. I'm more against the fire than I am the hire because
Sure.
we saw first half of season success. We saw the players buy in.
Yeah.
So that's the Chicago problems. And now we're talking about Washington. Now, Washington was a team that if 4 months ago you would have told me, I would have said, beautiful, perfect landing spot. But what's happened since there? You have gotten rid of the GM and the head coach, the father son duo, not been the biggest fan of that head coach, not the biggest fan of the father son duo in the sense of
Oh my
thinking
god.
nepotism isn't a problem. But Mike T is a revolutionary, a vanguard of the W. He has made Washington a destination in the sense that they have been so, forward thinking of advanced stats, how to personnel development, how to dissect a player, finding gems, diamonds in the rough in the draft, so in so many ways, time and time again. And now where are you sitting? And that's even excluding the whole aspect of maybe the team's moving, maybe the team isn't moving. They're playing in this 4,000 seat arena that's built for them, but actually it's more built to be a practice facility for the Wizards than it is for the Mystics actual game arena. Fine, but at least they have facility. They have those things. But what's the big issue? Who has replaced the Tebows? One person, the president of operations for the Wizards. Now, please explain to me how on God's green earth we're sitting here thinking that is a place that you want to go to. You have a person who knows nothing about the WNBA. You have a person who I know nothing about the NBA, but I feel comfortable throwing this out there. The Wizards have not ever been a good team in my experience of being in DC, just based on DC sports fans talking to me. And now you have that person being in charge of what the Mystics are doing. So all that amazingness is out the window. All that to be said, I like Paige going to any three of those teams. The team that has the opportunity to be the deepest playoff team is Dallas. I'm sorry, because now you have an opportunity to keep Satu, you have Aryeh, you have depth and size, and you have other shooters on this roster. Yes, you need to make changes. Yes, the defense needs to get better. Yes, you need a freaking head coach. But I honestly think, in terms of success, Dallas is the place. What up, Pickle?
Yeah, Pickle's like, hold on, let me jump in here real
Sorry,
quick.
long ass
Okay,
rant.
I got some stuff I want to say. No, I mean, I don't even know where to start. You're exactly right. I think it just goes to show you like some of the initial reaction of like, oh my God, we feel so bad for Paige. She has to go to Dallas. That like the whole LA thing still holds some type of allure to people. I don't think people quite realize like what the hell is going on with that franchise. And we have honestly, I think
For
we've
years.
been trying to for years we have been trying to spin it and talk about it. I mean, there's some fundamental ownership deep rooted issues with the Sparks organization, and I don't know that it's going to get any better. Obviously, I don't know who they're going to hire. That will we'll see how that kind of shapes my opinion of this whole thing. But like, I don't know that I would want to touch the LA Sparks with a 10-foot pole. The only thing right now that I think is going well for them is the fact that you've got Cameron Brink, Rakeem Jackson, and I guess you're in LA,
Don't
and
forget
so
Hamby.
and Hamby, yeah, okay. I'm talking about like just like rookies though, right? Like
Mhm.
like it almost feels like this is such a crossroads for the Sparks in terms of okay, this is either going to be like we're going to just, take the baton. Okay, and here's my rant for a second. It's everyone's like, "Oh my god, I can't believe, you're so surprised that Dallas got the number 1 pick. They had the best odds." Well, first and foremost, they never had to use their pick swap to get the number 1 pick. They got it
Wild.
fair and square out of the direct lottery, okay? And they did not have the best odds. So that was not why my reaction was what it was yesterday. My reaction, and I went on the same rant on Bleacher Report yesterday, is just how rich and how karma-ish this feels for Kurt Miller, who was hired by the Los Angeles Sparks for a specific reason: to redefine, reestablish, and reset that franchise, which was a disaster for all the reasons we just talked about, which isn't going to happen overnight because there's fundamental, deep rooted issues from a culture standpoint, from a front office standpoint, from an ownership standpoint, and meanwhile, trying to do it with your hands tied behind your back because nobody will invest in their own franchise. Okay, so Kurt Miller goes in, they're in the lottery. Okay, they go get Cam Brink, Kent Jackson, do exactly what they're supposed to do in year 1. I don't know if Magic Johnson or whoever the powers that be thought that they were supposed to be a contender after that, but they weren't, especially after Cameron Brink tears her ACL and she goes down. This year for LA, in my opinion, after watching this team, was the product great on the floor? No. But did they play hard and did they seem at least like the culture had been better? For sure, of course. Now, everybody knows I'm biased towards Kurt Miller. He's a long time, someone I've known in this business for a very, very, very long time. When someone, it's time to make the move and, they need to move on from someone, I will be completely upfront and honest. I that was premature. Didn't need to happen. He took this team and did exactly what they were supposed to do, which was be in the lottery. Be in the lottery so they could secure the number 1 pick again and have an opportunity at Paige Beckers. The fact that they fired Kurt Miller, he then gets hired by the Dallas Wings, and then now, the Dallas Wings get the number 1 pick and they're able to secure Paige Beckers is just poetically karmatic to me. And I just think it's unbelievable. It's like an egg on the face to the Los Angeles Sparks organization. And it's not like I'm sitting here saying, "Oh man, Dallas is so much better." I have been extremely critical of Dallas. And I've been critical of Greg Bibb. I don't know what this little experiment of acting like he's going to relinquish control and give that up to Kurt Miller as GM. I don't know how that's going to go. I have no idea. I have no idea what that's going to look like. But you know what? I have to at least tip my hat to him a little bit for trying. For trying a little bit and giving Kurt Miller that position, which we know he has experience and success on. So, like, Paige to Dallas, like, doesn't look that bad right now. It really doesn't. It really doesn't. I mean, there's so many question marks in LA. Like, I don't even know where to start. And so, and then just, just the way it happened with Kurt Miller, I don't think he should have lost his job. I think he did exactly what he was supposed to do, what he was intended to do. And if that's the case, and it's something like along the lines of like the Christy Sides moving off, Christy Sides did her role. She did exactly what she was supposed to do with the Indiana Fever. You can't fire her and be like, oh, we're firing you because of the job you did. Basically, this was, hey, you did your job. Now we're going to pass the baton on to the next person that we
Mhm.
think is going to take it to the next level. If that's what LA was doing, then come out and say it like that. But they didn't.
Mhm.
They made it seem like, oh, you weren't in, the playoffs. And so, this wasn't good enough. The expectation here is championships, which goes against everything we all knew that franchise needed to do. So anyway,
Mhm.
the egg on the face to the Los Angeles Sparks organization, in my opinion, the only thing I can say, it's karma. It feels like karma to me. The more I think about Paige Beckers in Dallas, it's interesting. I mean, there has been a long lasting point guard issue in Dallas
Crystal
for,
Dangerfield, Odyssey Sims,
yeah, I
Veronica
mean, it's been like
Burton.
what?
Who else?
I mean, really, has it been since Skylar Diggins Smith was there?
Yeah, they've been searching since then.
I mean, how long ago was she even with? I don't even remember how long that's been. But anyway, they've
There's a
had some
season off, then she was in Phoenix, then another off, and then Seattle. So what,
So
4 seasons?
now
Or
assuming this
5?
trends in the direction we all think it's going to, the point guard issue has been fixed there. So like it could be interesting. I think that was a major step in the right direction. And yeah, rant done. Right now, and I know I did a poll a few weeks ago. Like if you're a free agent coach in the WNBA, which franchise would be most appealing to you right now? A lot of people said LA. And I would just love to ask that question, why? Why? Is it because of the
Mhm.
rookies and like the clean slate that's been built? Because I agree, if that's what your argument's going to be, someone could go in there and really start to build this thing up. But if it's fundamental and if it's deep rooted and from an ownership perspective, to me, they're one of the last. They're one of the
Yeah.
last.
No, I mean, how many teams no longer have their own practice facilities? How many teams are constantly being moved? That's something that we've seen in the past. And like the biggest criticism we've seen is, hey, cheap owners, get out of the way. We
Yeah.
want facilities. We want these things. Hey, super rich, multimillionaire slash billionaire owners in LA, move out the way, sell the team. No, not sell the team, but like if you're not going to provide for this team, then get out the way and find
Yeah.
somebody
I
who
mean, I
will.
haven't
They
seen it.
need
I haven't seen it yet.
honestly, all it truly takes is build a facility and LA is a destination
For
again.
sure. I mean, anyway, there's a couple other
Rants.
things we got to talk about too. I know we both went on our rants. Dallas Wings getting the
Whole
number one
episode
pick.
just a rant. No. Well, the other thing that I want you to give me a little bit of a breakdown on is the Dallas Wings. Sorry, not the Dallas Wings. The Atlanta Dream
Yeah.
hire their new head coach. Talk to me about this savant, this elite basketball mind.
Well, it's funny because everyone's like, "Oh, you said big name coaches. Is this a big name coach?" All right. Well, I mean, all right. If you are deeply rooted in women's college basketball and you understand that yes, Carl Smesko is a big name coach, I understand that Florida Gulf Coast, to an outsider just looking at that name, sees a mid-major program down in Florida and doesn't think much of it. But you've got to think about Carl Smesko and what he's built there at Florida Gulf Coast over however many decades. It's been a long time. And he has had multiple opportunities to be at a lot of different places, Southern California. I mean, every time there's a big job opening in women's college basketball, his name is one of the top ones that comes up. For whatever reason, he never really left Florida Gulf Coast. I think he was able to do what he wanted to do and the way that he wanted to do it and the system that he wanted to run, all while living right there on the beach and having a pretty good little quality of life there. Took that team to however many NCAA tournaments. All he's done he's won. He's won, he's won, he's won. And when I talked about a few weeks ago, so many of these positions that are opening, I mean, it's beyond the point where we can just recycle a lot of names that we've seen come through time and time again. We're going to have some new blood that's inserted into, the equation of these head coaching positions in the WNBA. Is that going to be internationally? Is that going to be NBA? People jumping over from the NBA? Is that going to be college coaches? And I think the WNBA is getting to a point where it's starting to be appealing for a college basketball coach, a big name college basketball coach, because yes, I will absolutely stand by Carl Smesko being a big name college basketball coach. And here's why, because the NCAA landscape is changing so much. You're talking about now. It's a semi-pro. It's basically a pro organization now with when you're talking about NIL or revenue sharing. And so who's getting hit the most? Who's getting hit the most are a lot of those mid majors that don't have a ton of funding to be able to throw at players, to be able to throw at players in the transfer portal. Or you sit there and you bring in, a really good prospect from a high school level, develop them as he has done such a great job at doing, and then they get poached and they want to go on and make more money or try their hand at a higher level program. So it is brutal. It's brutal over there right now, everybody, at the college basketball level in terms of coaching, just being able to do what they want to do,
Mm-hmm.
which is coach the game, and I think this move to me screams, and I know Smesko very, very well. I've had an opportunity to really pick his brain quite a bit. I would love to continue to, and it's going to be, he's a very analytical person. You've got to be able to shoot the ball at a high rate. I definitely, I don't think you can take a Florida Gulf Coast strategy and implement it exactly what it looks like in the WNBA. He's going to adapt, but he's more than capable of that. I think the guy just wants to coach. You know what I'm saying? Like, he doesn't want to sit there and, deal with the transfer portal. I'm telling you, these coaches don't have any time. They don't have any time. They have zero quality of life. It used to be, it would get to May and you had time off. Okay, now you get done with your season and it's transfer portal season. You got, 15 kids coming on campus in the span of 2 weeks. It's freaking crazy in terms of the way that goes. Then in the summer, you're working out with your team or you're taking a foreign tour. And then you're recruiting in July, and then you might get a little bit of time in August. But I say it time and time again, the college basketball schedule and workload for a coach is really, really challenging, and I think it's really hard. And if you don't feel like evolving, if you don't want to evolve and, kind of, play the numbers game, if you will, and deal with the turnover that you're going to have every single year. It didn't used to be that way. Carl Smesko used to be able to have players for 4 years of their career and develop and get old and get, great chemistry on his team. That's changing. Now, I'm not speaking for him, but I would be willing to guess that this move has a lot to do with just a change in his career and where the current climate of not just where the WNBA is projected and going, but where the NCAA game is going. You've seen a lot of people walk away or retire. There's a lot of people that, they're not down with it. They're not down with it. So I love Carl Smesko. I think he's an elite basketball mind. Yes, just like anything, there's going to be a learning curve. I do want to make one point. You brought up Teresa Witherspoon. Chicago knew that they were hiring a first-time head coach. And then, okay, when you do that, you have to be patient to some degree,
Mm-hmm.
and then they were just like, yeah, no, we don't want to be patient anymore. It was just fascinating to me how you knew what you were getting into before you made that hire, and then you left the hire because of something you've already should have known
Rachel,
you're getting into.
but that's kind of the thing that I think we chatted about either in the Bleacher Report stream. Make sure you're checking those out if you haven't already. We're doing one every Monday, then we try and record afterwards. But we're doing one every Monday for the AP power ranking, but then also top 25 power ranking, but then also doing some other stuff for them throughout the offseason. But we talked about this, right? Like the teams, the Dallases, the LAs, the Chicagos, these teams that are making, and honestly, I'll throw Indiana into it. Indiana's in its own league, so maybe not, but these teams making such rash, quick decisions that clearly are not thought out. And if you're telling me that you thought out the Teresa Witherspoon firing, then you're telling me you didn't think out the hiring. And
Exactly.
that's kind of
Right.
either way, you're showing me you tripped up and you faulted.
Right.
It's either you faulted from the beginning or you faulted at the end. It doesn't matter which one. And so when I see these teams, if you think that you're going to hire a new head coach with, an extremely overhauled, changed roster, and all of a sudden you're just going to appear, especially with a coach who doesn't have head coaching experience, and all of a sudden appear as the top team in this league. I don't know what you're smoking. But the other thing for Carl joining the Minnesota or the W is that you look at it in the sense of the time commitment and the pay, right? The
Yeah.
WNBA time commitment is not nearly as much as college, and the pay is slowly inching up towards it. Yes, there's less of a security, as it were, to some degree. But yeah, I mean, I think you see this evening out. And we talked about this years ago on the podcast. Go back to like episodes in the 200s or the 300s. And you'll hear us talking about it. Like, what is going to be the tipping point that kind of bridges those gaps? I don't know. We necessarily thought it was going to be, so much more influx of money going into college, bringing college down as much as it is Minnesota. Or I keep saying Minnesota. I don't know why. WNBA. I'm about to go to Minnesota in a couple days. That's why. WNBA rising up. You know what I mean? Like they kind of met in the middle to a degree, and they haven't met
Yeah.
yet. I don't think they've met yet, but that's kind of where they're inching in terms of preferential
Yeah.
situations for coaches.
Yeah. I think the Smesco hire is fascinating just from a standpoint of this is really the first established, well-known college basketball coach to just make that jump. I think just like anything, there will be a learning curve, but I can tell you he's going to be analytical. He's going to run a pro system. He's going to know how to put those players into a position to be successful. So I know from the start the Atlanta Dream went out and were aggressive after him from the jump. They had their eye on him. So it'll be interesting, how that, I don't even want to say it's an experiment. It's not an experiment. I mean, we had coaches that left college and Kurt Miller is a perfect example. Kurt Miller was one of those names, that had won a ton at the collegiate level. So how does that trend continue to go? I haven't seen reports of what does his contract look like? How many years did he get? What was the guarantee, the ins and outs? Like a lot of that stuff, I feel like sometimes we never get that information. But I have to
Yeah.
believe, he fought tooth and nail to get something at least relatively meeting in the middle there, right? Where Atlanta came up and, maybe Smesco, what he had at Florida Gulf Coast, which he probably could have sat there for the rest of his career, found a way to find, just a comfortability of there. If it's, 3 years, 4 years, I don't know. But what we have to start getting away from is 2 year, 1 year, because no college coach is going to agree to that, and unless a WNBA team wants to hire somebody who's on the hot seat, which that's at that point not a big name. If you want to attract major names at major programs, you're going to have to, everyone's going to have to up the ante, just like they've done in Phoenix, just like they've done in Las Vegas. To be determined. We haven't really heard what Steph White's contract was at Indiana, but yeah, I agree. I think it's like on one hand, you feel like the WNBA is like, okay, we're stepping up a little bit here. We're getting some new blood in. We're making these positions a little bit more enticing. The years, the days of paying $300,000 and attracting a high quality coach, are kind of going out the window. But then it's like, but then on the other hand, we even talk about this. You got some people who are jumping ship and going on, to Unrivaled or, whatever it might be. So I don't know. It's a really fascinating time in the WNBA. And I think it's probably a little bit premature we need to do that. We need to do this in a month from now, a month and a half from now, when some of these hires and some of these positions are filled and we can really analyze, okay, what is the direction truly going? Who are the Dallas Wings going to hire now that they know for sure what their position is? What direction does LA go? I thought for sure we would know who they were hiring before the lottery. They've had their, search committee out for weeks now. Still no news on the Sparks. So I think when we know what some of these positions are going to look like, we'll have a better idea in terms of that direction.
And just a reminder, still deciding, it's been tough, which of the 5 finalists will win. But we'll get back to you on that, hopefully in our next episode or the following one, and we'll reach out before that. So keep an eye out to your email. Rachel, you know how we end it. Who's your GOAT?
No, I don't want to do it. You can't do it on the off season. Fine. My goat. You know what? Shout out to Gino Auriemma for tying up the most. Oh my gosh, Pickle looks so cute. I wish I could show you guys over here what he's doing. Gino Auriemma for tying the most college basketball wins of all time, soon to break Tara Vanderveer. So I know that was a big week for Coach Auriemma. He'll get my nod.
Boom. Love it. Have a good one.